Wow, would you look at that? It's beautiful Stanford. It's that time of year when the days drag on until 9 p.m. and the crisp and cool evening air feels like something you can sip out of the sky. Meanwhile, the endless hustle and bustle of Stanford has finally slowed, and I am filled with existential dread. Hello. So, my junior year of college is officially over. Honestly, it's felt like the last 7 or 8 months have just been a non-stop sprint, and I haven't really had time to process a lot of the things that have happened. So I just thought that this would be the perfect time to reflect on the 5 life lessons I've learned in my junior year at Stanford. And the first lesson is to do the work. So some of you may have seen my last YouTube video, and if you watched that, it may have looked like I was in some pretty dire straits. However, the winter has healed me, and the thing that healed me is doing the work. I spent a lot of the fall trying to distract myself with friends, raves, pickleball, the gym. But ultimately, those were just distractions that allowed me to look away from the things in my life that actually really needed to change if I was going to feel better. So in the winter, I made it my top priority to put my life together. I stopped going out every weekend, and I spent some weekend nights just in my room journaling or reading alone. Crazy, I know. I stayed really consistent with the gym and my diet. I had the closest thing to a healthy sleep routine that I've probably ever had. And most importantly, I just worked. I worked a lot on the psychology research I was doing, and I doubled down on my writing. I kind of closed myself off from the world and really only focused on the things that I knew would bring me peace and happiness. Healing was not particularly fun, but every day it felt like I was showing up and taking care of myself. Sometimes I think we think that taking care of ourselves means allowing ourselves to indulge in the things that make our lives worse, like indulging in extra ice cream, indulging in doom scrolling for an extra hour before you go to bed. But that's not what it felt like at all. Taking care of myself meant forcing myself to do the things that were good for me like I was a child. It meant forcing myself to go to sleep early because I thank myself in the morning. It meant forcing myself to start on projects early so that I didn't have the chance to procrastinate on them. It meant saying no to going out because staying in and journaling would set me up better for the next day. I think taking care of yourself really boils down to asking yourself, what would the me of tomorrow thank myself for doing right now? As a result, I ended up feeling the best I've felt in a really, really long time. By the end of the winter, I'd reinvigorated my love for reading and anime. I hit the 1,000-pound club and had subsequently lost 10 pounds. I wrote a grant proposal for my honors thesis, and for the first time in a really long time, I just felt myself getting better at writing. I hit a moment during the winter where I just really thought to myself, oh, I can really make all of my dreams come true. Not in like an egotistical, I'm entitled to success and that like I'm just special and destined for greatness, but rather it's an assurance that comes from seeing the fruits of your slow daily efforts that you put into something consistently. This was the answer to the question that I had been asking myself so much during the fall, where I kept asking myself that if this breakup was so necessary, that if this needed to happen, then why did I feel so sad? I realized that there are more important things in life than being in love and being in a relationship. And that is liking who you are and living up to the person that you really want to be. Life lesson number 2, negative feelings don't need to control your actions. So I've spent a lot of my life trying to conquer negative emotions. Most people are paralyzed by fear or other negative emotions. So I spent most of high school really trying to force myself to act in the face of discomfort. If there was a pretty girl that I was scared to talk to, I had to go talk to her. Or if there was some challenge that was really uncomfortable for me, I would force myself to go and do it. Hell, I literally took cold showers for like at least a year because I just really wanted to be able to get over that moment of hesitation before you like plunge into a cold shower. And I thought at the time that I was conquering my fears. But really, what I was doing was training myself to run towards fear and other negative emotions instead of running away from it. But I've since realized that those are actually the exact same thing. The fear or the negative emotions are still controlling you. I've just changed the direction that I'm running. And there is a third option, and that is to do nothing. You can feel negatively and not be pushed to do anything, which is insane. During the winter, in order to really focus on myself and healing, I told myself that I was not going to make any moves on any girls at all. And yeah, I know that sounds really stupid and obvious and easy, but it's easier said than done. There would be moments during those first couple weeks where I did not feel better. I just felt sad and I felt lonely, and it felt like the only thing that could make me feel better about myself was the validation of another person. And this was really tested when I took a philosophy class that quarter, because I met this really pretty girl in my class, and when I was sitting in class, every single part of my body and being would just be like, you need to go ask her out. If you don't ask her out right now, someone else is going to start dating her. This window of opportunity is going to close and you are going to end up alone. But I stayed true to myself and I did not do anything. But even when I'd committed to not doing anything. That didn't stop the thoughts from coming. But since I'd already decided not to do it, all I could do was sit there, acknowledge it, and let it pass. Once I realized that I could have negative emotions or experiences and that I didn't have to let those things control me, it literally felt like discovering a cheat code. Like at night, when I was brushing my teeth, I used to get like these random bouts of loneliness or like just wishing that someone was in my bed. I don't know if that's a common experience, but and I remember in the fall, I would take that as a sign of like, oh, I need to go out and do more stuff. I need to go meet more people. I need to go on Hinge or go to raves and try to meet someone new. But everything changed when I realized that my feelings of loneliness didn't need to control my life and actions. And negative emotions includes everything, like hunger, jealousy, or boredom. And once you realize that these emotions do not need to control your actions, you can literally just go about making the best decision for yourself. Obviously, I'm still not perfect at this, but I really feel like the winter gave me a glimpse of what really being in control of my emotions looked like. Number 3, trust the universe. Let go of how your life should look. Despite my flirtation with emotional maturity during the winter, this summer I have been feeling so anxious. There are so many things that I'm trying to do right now, and honestly, in trying to do all of them, I'm doing none of them. And it's made even worse because everything feels so urgent right now. I'm graduating next year and I'm currently working on my PhD applications. And if I don't get into grad school, I'm probably going to have to spend 2 or 3 years working in a lab. And if that's true, by the time I actually get into grad school and finish it, I'll be like 30. And I don't know how obvious this is, but that is terrifying. Look, I know this isn't true, but I'm currently 20 years old. And honestly, it feels like by the time I am 30, my entire life will have come and gone. Like 30 just feels so old. Also, I spent like the last 2 years in college kind of working on this novel right now, and I'm really starting to wrap it up, and I'm starting to feel this pressure that like, oh my God, if I don't like publish this novel or do something with it, or like start trying to write a new novel, I will have spent so many years in college trying to get better at writing and not really have anything to show for it. And that just makes me feel like I need to get something published now. And these ambitions that I have right now are shrouded in a cloud of uncertainty. And that makes me really anxious because I have trust issues, and not just like with people. I just have a general distrust of like the universe to bring me good things. It's always felt like if I wanted something good to happen to me, I needed to put in the effort to go and get that thing. I needed to control everything and work really hard to get anything that I wanted. Otherwise, I have literally zero faith that good things are just going to happen to me. As a result, I stress a lot about, am I writing every day? Am I reading every day? Am I preparing my grad school application more and more every single day? All on top of the full-time research job that I currently have and trying to hang out with the friends that are around during the summer. And this stress makes me super rigid. It taints the other areas of my life. Something might pop up. Like a couple weeks ago, my mom came and visited me for a day. But when I'm super rigid, a single benign distraction, like, oh, my mom coming and visiting me, becomes like a potential source of stress because suddenly I'm thinking in my mind, oh my God, I'm not writing every day. Am I like wasting my time and my potential? Am I never going to achieve my goals? And that's just crazy. Or sometimes I'll be done with my day of work and I'll still just be stressed of like, oh my God, there's more work I could have done today. But that stress isn't useful. I'm not even supposed to be working in that moment. And it detracts from the time that I get to spend with the people I really care about because I'm just still feeling guilty about work that I could have done. And at this point, if the striving to achieve my goals is just making my quality of life worse, it starts to make you really wonder, how worth it is striving this hard? Felt like I was missing the forest for the trees. Something felt wrong. I realized that my stress comes from this intense sense of urgency and the desire for everything I want to happen in this timeline that I've constructed in my head, or else everything will just go horribly wrong. These goals are honestly really short-sighted, and honestly, they're mostly ego-driven. They're timelines that I feel like I should achieve in order to feel special or worth it. But in my more relaxed moments, I take a deep breath. And I realize I am only 22 years old. I have my entire life ahead of me to write and to do psychology research. Things are not as urgent as they seem. Unless I find something else to do and like kind of pivot, I really believe that at some point in my life, I will finish a PhD and become a clinician. I will write more books and surely eventually something will get published. And again, this doesn't really come from like a sense of entitlement, but it comes from this assurance that I know how much work it takes to get from where I am to where I want to be. But I can do that work. The problem has never been the work. The problem is that I have all these expectations and they're detracting from all the other areas of my life. And I would argue that they're even detracting from the work that I do. Like, for example, if I'm going to apply to PhD programs this year, if I approach it like I've been approaching it, every single step of the process is just going to make me incredibly anxious because I just want this thing so badly. This is a question that came to me the other day while I was journaling. What would you do if you knew that your dreams were going to come true at some point? You didn't know when, you didn't know how, and you didn't know where, but you just knew at some point in your life they would come true. Some people might think that having such an idea in your head might discourage you from working really hard. But I think if you're focused on the right stuff, I think it lets you work just as hard, but you get to appreciate your daily life even more. Like, I love writing and I love the research that I'm doing. And if you told me that my dreams were going to come true, I wouldn't stop doing either of those things. I really like those things. But having that knowledge of knowing that the future is going to be all right would allow me to relax about the future and just be more present and focused on the things right in front of me. I'd be more present with my friends this summer when I'm with them, or I'd just be able to walk around campus and appreciate the fact that this is probably the last summer that I will ever spend at Stanford. But when I'm so focused on the goals in the distant future of getting into grad school, I kind of just forget about all the things that are just really great and like happening in my life right now. The question that has kind of been my North Star with how much work I've been doing is, did you do the work that needed to be done today? And did you set yourself up so that you could do the work tomorrow? And look, it's okay if you didn't. Things are going to pop up and you can't always do all of the work that needs to be done. That doesn't mean that you're a complete failure. It doesn't mean that you're never going to achieve your dreams. Like, if you didn't do the work today, figure out why. Adjust your schedule so you're better able to do it tomorrow, and then you try again. Everything else is just mental stories that don't matter. They don't impact your life right now, and they don't impact the work that needs to get done. There's only ever the work in front of you and whether or not you're going to do it today and whether or not you're going to be able to do it tomorrow. So just do the work in front of you and trust that if you do the work and you do it well, you're going to end up where you need to be. Life lesson number 4. A balanced life is a series of unbalanced phases. One of the primary struggles throughout most of college for me has been how much should I be working versus taking the fact that this is a very unique time in my life. I'm surrounded by my friends to just go and be a little bit more hedonistic and have some really great memories with the people I really care about. And I'm a really greedy person, and my definition of a good life contains both meaningful work and just pure hedonistic fun with people I love. And I honestly refuse to give up either, but there's only so much time in a day. I really don't want to look back at college and tell myself, why did you work so hard? Why did you stress about so much when everything was going to work out anyways? You should have taken that time to be more carefree and spend time with your friends because you don't live near any of them anymore. But on the flip side, I also really, really don't want to look back at college and be like, yo, you screwed around way too much. Maybe you could have pulled yourself together a little bit better, and then you'd be in a lot better position for the future. I feel like the natural solution to this is just to try to balance everything, to do all of the work that needed to get done, while also going out to see all of my friends as much as possible. And I realized really quickly into the year that just really wasn't possible for me. I find that I often just find myself in phases where I'm either working really, really hard or having a lot of fun. But when I tried balancing these during the school year, I just ended up getting really frustrated. If I was having a lot of fun, I definitely was not as routine oriented as I needed to be to make significant progress towards my goals. And if I was working really, really hard, I definitely was not having as much fun as I would have liked to. And I realized that that's okay. I wish the lesson was more climactic than that, but that's really it. It's okay. I kept trying to get my life under control. Like, I was almost there. If I could just work a little bit harder, manage my time a little bit better, then suddenly everything would click into place and I'd be some well-oiled machine that has the perfect amount of fun and work every single day. But that's just not how life works. That mindset just left me feeling constantly disappointed that I could have squeezed out a little bit more work, or I could have been a little bit more present with my friends. And I kept beating myself up for not living up to this idealized, balanced version of a life in my head. But what I really needed to do was fully lean into an unbalanced life. Like, during the fall, I definitely focused a lot more on being social and having fun than I did on work. And as a result, I definitely had the worst academic quarter I've ever had at Stanford. But also, I left with a much wider social circle that just made me feel really comfortable on campus. The most comfortable I've ever felt. But then, during the winter, I kind of realized that, and I leaned in to doing the work. So I closed off my circle, I put my head down, and I embraced the work, which was amazing. But I also know that if all of my quarters at Stanford were like that, then I'd hate that. Then, come the spring, the weather turned amazing again, and the days lasted till like 8:30 p.m., and I was just in full frolic mode. I was screwing around a lot during the spring, and it was so fun. But near the end, I definitely, again, started to feel really overwhelmed by the chaos. I was probably screwing around way more than I'd like to. My writing had slowed. I hadn't done as much work as I'd have loved to do for the research that I was doing. But now it's summer. Things are slowing down. There's less people around. I've got a solid 9-to-5 job, and it just feels right for me to lock in and really focus on my work right now. My point is that during each of these phases, I felt slightly uncomfortable. But I try to remind myself that it's okay. This phase of life doesn't last forever, but it's where you're at right now. Just let yourself be there. And I'd like to qualify this by saying that I'm always doing some level of work and I'm always having some level of fun. It's just never in the perfect balance. When I'm working a lot, I crave adventure and spontaneity. And when I'm in the middle of an adventure, I crave stability and peace. And that's just life. Life goes through different phases and seasons, and I'm just really trying to let myself appreciate each season before it's gone. I grew up hearing everything in moderation, and I think I took that a little too literally. I thought that that meant that every single day I should have a moderate amount of adventure and a moderate amount of work. And honestly, I feel like that just leaves you with an unfulfilling adventure and not enough consistency to actually make progress in the work that needs to get done. Lean into unbalance and really listen to yourself and trust yourself to know when it's time to change seasons. Okay, this is the final life lesson that I learned during my junior year of college at Stanford, and that is to choose love. Keep rolling the dice. The big thing for me this year has been getting heartbroken and falling to some of the all-time lows in terms of confidence and security that I've ever felt, and then rebuilding myself. The process of getting hurt and healing was really long, often excruciating, and felt unending. But now that I've come out on the other side, it has just genuinely been one of the most rewarding years of my entire life. I remember I used to say that I wanted to get my heart broken or shattered, and I wanted to see if I could choose to trust again after I'd been hurt so badly. And honestly, now the prospect of falling in love again, of letting someone really get to know me, of really getting to know another person, and having that potentially end is terrifying, okay? Knowing the hurt that falling in love can cause, the powerlessness of having someone else's opinion affect you so greatly, the fact that people can fall in love and that sometimes love is not enough. God, that's terrifying. But I decided a long time ago that I was not going to let myself live a life that was based on avoiding my fears. A lot of the best things in life are going to require risk. And honestly, if you're going to take a risk, it may as well be for love, because what the hell else are we doing? I want true love to be real. And I want it to be better than it is in the movies. I believe in love. I really do. And even more than that, I want to believe in love. Honestly, what's the other option? You're a cynic and think that everything is doomed to fail before it even begins? I believe that we create the realities that we live in. So live a life of cynicism, always worried that you're going to get hurt and never trusting other people, and you're going to end up hurt and never trusting another person. So choose love, because it makes your life easier and it helps carry you through the world a little bit happier, even if sometimes that means you're going to get hurt. And let me make this very clear. You will get hurt. But if there's anything I've learned in like the past 8 months, it is that you can get hurt and that you can be okay. It's been a while now, and honestly, it feels impossible for me to remember what it really feels like to be heartbroken. Like, obviously, I have memories of the emotional toll and toil that it took to get better, but I can't really remember being in that mental state, and I can't feel that pain without the knowledge that it gets better, that I get better. John Green once wrote, "But I can feel the pain in a way that feels survivable, as things only can once you've survived them." I remember when I was in the midst of my breakup, there were moments that I genuinely thought that no one else was ever really going to love me. Part of me is just terrified that I'm never going to fall in love again. I know how irrational that is, and I know I'm only 21, blah, 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 blah. That's just how I feel right now, okay? I know I thought that. I know I said it, but I can't feel that anymore. I used to really think that being okay meant that you'd always feel like the pain was bearable and that you knew that it was going to end and that you felt like you could handle it. But it's actually the opposite. Knowing that I will be okay means precisely knowing that I will not be okay for a really long time, that I will not think that this pain is bearable. Okay, look, I don't want to be melodramatic. Realistically, I've gone through my first breakup. All in all, that seems like a very relatively normal experience for people to go through. There are undoubtedly bigger heartbreaks and tragedies waiting for me than a heartbreak. And I'm sure, again, that the pain will be unbearable, and I will feel like there is no way this is ever going to end, and somehow I will find a way to bear it. Likely, reluctantly, and full of self-pity, and cursing everything that made it happen, but I will bear it. So I've often been told that I'm naively optimistic, and maybe that's true. But my optimism isn't about my ability to never be hurt or broken, but to always be repaired. So choose to believe in something, knowing that it can absolutely break you, and choose to believe in it anyways. So during the spring quarter, when I had an opportunity to ask out that girl that was in my philosophy class during the winter, I took it. We went on an amazing first date, and then we started to spend all of our free time together, and I could just feel myself falling in love, but this time I was terrified. Knowing how much pain it could cause me to try to control way too much. I kept trying to control the pace of our relationship and set up these arbitrary boundaries in order to guard my own heart so that I wouldn't get hurt again. But I realized a couple weeks into it that honestly any attempt to prevent myself from getting hurt was just futile, and it was just making the overall experience of dating worse. So I decided to take the leap and trust her and to just see what happens. Except this time I left with my eyes wide open. I know that relationships fail, people get heartbroken, and heartbreak is excruciating. And I am in love. Hello! I'm recording a YouTube video.
This is crazy.
Hello guys, this is Hannah. Do you have any wise words you'd like to share?
Take one step at a time.